TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's top story countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
This was never supposed to happen in America.
The already enormous legal pressure on the former president is likely about to intensify. A grand jury in Georgia expected to consider criminal charges against Donald Trump and his Republican allies.
In terms of the Georgia case, it's going to add a significant burden on him to defend yet another case. These cases will all have significant trial deadlines and pretrial deadlines for hearings that he's going to have to be involved with, and that will detract from his campaign.
A decision on whether to seek charges against the former president in Georgia will be made within the next few weeks by a team led by Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis.
The work is accomplished. We've been working for 2.5 years. We're ready to go.
The case focuses on the multi-pronged effort Trump launched in the wake of the 2020 election to overturn the results in Georgia. It included pressure on Georgia's governor and Secretary of State, both Republicans, to find enough votes to flip Joe Biden's win in the state.
So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
When the governor and Secretary of State refused to go along, Trump urged state lawmakers to convene a special session to reverse Biden's victory.
This election was a sham.
Trump ally Rudy Giuliani went to the Georgia House and Senate with bogus voter fraud claims.
Rudy Giuliani is considered to have a lot of exposure in Georgia because he spoke at those legislative hearings, and we know a lot of the information he shared was not true at the time.
Other Trump allies who could face criminal charges are Republican activists the Trump campaign recruited to serve as fake electors. They allegedly played key roles in a failed plot to block the election from being certified.
About half of them have received immunity deals, which indicates they're working with the prosecution to tell them what they know.
CNN has reported that Fonnie Willis is considering bringing charges of conspiracy and racketeering in this case.
Racketeering charges are typically broader criminal schemes involving multiple individuals, and essentially the maximum punishment for those types of charges are typically much higher than other charges that are mentioned here.
Testimony has also been sought in the Georgia case from former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Fonnie Willis has told local officials of threats she's received, many of them of a racist nature, during the period she's been investigating this case.
I've probably been called the N-word more times in the last 2.5 years than most 100 people combined.
Like the Advocate channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
They became the criminals they swore to protect us from.
They allegedly call themselves the Goon Squad, a group of 6 white former Mississippi law enforcement officers giving themselves that moniker because of their alleged willingness to use excessive force and not to report. Now they pleaded guilty to federal charges related to an assault that, according to a charging document, included nearly 2 hours of torture, physical, racist, and sexual abuse on 2 black men after a white neighbor complained. Several black males had been staying at the property, and the neighbor had observed suspicious behavior. The officer who received the complaint directed an investigator to take care of it. On January 24th, 6 law enforcement officers entered victims Eddie Parker and Michael Jiggles' home without a warrant.
Handcuffing the victims behind their backs and using racial slurs and derogatory language when yelling at the victims, discharging a firearm in order to scare and intimidate the victims, holding them down and pouring cooking oil, milk, alcohol, and chocolate syrup on their faces and into their mouths, forcing them to painfully and involuntarily ingest those liquids, striking one of the victims with objects including a metal sword, a piece of wood, and a wooden kitchen implement, kicking one of the victims in the ribs, tasing the victims dozens of times with department-issued tasers, and stealing personal belongings from the house.
It ended with Jenkins getting shot in the mouth, the bullet lacerating his tongue, breaking his jaw, and exiting out of his neck. For months, there was a lot of doubt about the official account of what took place, the Mississippi Department of Public Safety releasing a statement the day after the incident, saying only the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation is investigating an officer-involved shooting, but that didn't encapsulate the horror. In July, I spoke to Parker, Jenkins, and Jenkins' mother and toured the home where the crimes occurred.
I crawled here to this spot, and they started beating me here and tasing me. As you can see, blood spots and all. And my blood spots there.
Jenkins' injuries make it difficult for him to speak.
I'm hurt. I'm embarrassed.
Has anyone from the department ever reached out to you and apologized? Have they ever asked for anything at all?
Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey spoke at a press conference about the incident in late June.
I believe in my heart that this department remains one of the best departments in our state, and I'm committed to doing everything in my power to keep this department on a correct path moving forward.
Yesterday, he issued an apology and said he didn't fully understand the gravity of the crimes committed until recently. Federal authorities began their review in February. They, along with the state of Mississippi, were able to secure guilty pleas of all accused.
Not only did they brazenly commit these acts, but after inflicting serious bodily injury by firing a shot through one of the victim's mouths, they left him lying in a pool of blood, gathered on the porch of the house to discuss how to cover it up. What indifference, what disregard for life.
A life that will never be the same for either of these two men.
It's hard to stand right here, knowing, what happened right here. Justice is what it all boiled down to. I'm just like them, whether they're in uniform or not.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. Here's our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
Parents lost a child to something clearly that was a hate crime.
New York Mayor Eric Adams joining the Assistant Chief of the NYPD in announcing charges against a Brooklyn high school student in the stabbing death of 28-year-old dancer O'Shea Sibley.
This is a city where you are free to express yourself, and that expression should never end with any form of violence.
Police charging a 17-year-old with murder as a hate crime and criminal possession of a weapon in the death of the gay black man last Saturday. Sibley was dancing to a Beyoncé song with friends at a Brooklyn gas station when a group approached them and started to shout anti-gay slurs at them.
His name was O'Shea.
That's according to a friend who witnessed the incident. A dispute ensued between the two groups, and when it escalated, the suspect stabbed Sibley.
Not in my hood! Not in my hood! Not on my watch! Not on my watch! Enough is enough! Enough is enough! The killer has to stop! The killer has to stop!
The killing has triggered an outpouring of grief and calls for justice.
No justice!
Community members and anti-violence activists gathered at the gas station for a rally, honoring the promising young dancer on Friday.
Anyone, any human that enjoys something and they lose their life over it, we should put an emphasis on it.
Sibley, who had attended the Philadelphia dance school, was preparing to audition for The Lion King when he was killed, according to the New York Times. I'm Shelley Malashi.
Thanks for watching the Advocate channel's top stories. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow, like, and share, or check out advocatechannel.com for even more stories that advocate for you.